In the grim darkness of the far future, death is often a mercy. Across the million worlds of the Imperium, countless souls pray for a quick end to escape the grinding misery of their existence. But for the ambitious, for those who have turned their backs on the Emperor and looked into the swirling madness of the warp, death is not the fear. Their fear, and their ultimate goal, is immortality. They seek to walk the path to glory, a treacherous ladder built on slaughter and devotion, climbing towards the ultimate prize, apotheosis. To become a demon prince is to shed the weakness of mortality and rule forever as a god of war. But the Chaos Gods are not benevolent benefactors. They are churning incomprehensible storms of emotion, and their favor is a double-edged sword that cuts deeper than any power sword. To attract their gaze is to invite ruin. For every champion who ascends to demonhood, winged and majestic in their terrible power, there are thousands who falter. They are the ones who flew too close to the sun, only to find that the sun was not fire, but mutating flesh. They are the ones who received one gift too many, one blessing that their mortal frame could not withstand. Consider the tragedy of this gamble. You offer your soul to the ruinous powers in exchange for strength, for resilience, for knowledge, and they answer. They flood your veins with the raw energy of the immaterium. Your muscles swell, your skin hardens, your senses sharpen. You feel invincible. But the gods do not know when to stop giving, and the human body, no matter how enhanced, has a breaking point. There is a threshold where the blessing becomes a curse, where the biology of the material realm simply surrenders to the impossibility of the warp. This is the horrifying reality we are decoding today. We are not talking about the glorious ascension of a chosen one. We are looking at the failures, the discarded playthings, the mounds of quivering, screaming meat that were once proud warriors and sorcerers. This is the fate worse than death. This is the reality of becoming a chaos spawn. When the mind breaks before the body, you get a madman. But when the body breaks while the mind remains trapped inside, you get a horror that defies description. It is a fate of eternal biological anarchy, where your own cells betray you in a never-ending cycle of growth and consumption. You wanted to live forever? The gods have granted your wish, but in this form, you will wish for the silence of the grave every single second of your immortal existence. If you have ever wondered what happens when the gifts of chaos overwhelm the recipient, or why even the mightiest chaos lords tremble at the sensation of their flesh shifting unbidden, then you are in the right place. We are about to dissect the anatomy of a nightmare. Before we descend into this abyss of biological horror, if you appreciate these deep dives into the darkest lore of the 41st millennium, help the signal reach more initiates. The Inquisition tries to suppress this knowledge, but we broadcast the truth. Ignite the algorithm. Now, let us step on to the path of ruin. The path to glory is often romanticized by the delusional. They see it as a rigid ladder of meritocracy. You kill a loyalist champion, you gain a boon. You burn an imperial shrine, you gain an aura of command. It feels like progression, like a soldier earning medals. But this is the great lie of the ruinous powers. The path is not a ladder. It is a tightrope walk over a gaping maw, performed in a hurricane, where the rope is greased with your own blood. To understand the chaos spawn, you must first understand the dangerous currency of the warp. When a chaos god rewards a follower, they do not bestow a rank or a weapon you can holster. They bestow raw, mutagenic energy. They rewrite the genetic code of the recipient to better channel the winds of the immaterium. In the beginning, these gifts are undeniably functional. A Khorne berserker might gain fused ribs to protect his hearts, or adrenal glands that never stop pumping combat stims. A sorcerer of Tzeentch might gain a literal third eye to perceive the currents of magic. These are gifts in the truest sense. They make you a better killer, a better conduit, a more efficient monster. But you must remember, the Chaos Gods are not engineers, they are artists of excess. They do not care about biological stability, structural integrity, or the square cube law. They only care about more. More blood, more sensation, more change, more decay. As a champion grows in power, they attract more of this warp energy. The gifts begin to pile up, layering over one another in a chaotic geology of flesh. The fused ribs become a solid carapace that begins to crush the lungs from the inside. The third eye grows to the size of a dinner plate, pushing the brain against the skull. The adrenal glands swell until the blood turns to corrosive acid that eats away at the veins. The blessing becomes a burden. This is the trap of the Chaos Worshipper. You cannot refuse a gift. To reject a blessing from your patron god is an insult, a heresy punishable by instant annihilation or soul consumption. So you must accept it. You must let the warp twist your meat and bone. You tell yourself that you can handle it. You look at the demon princes, those towering avatars of destruction, and you think, I will be like them. You believe that if your will is strong enough, if your hate is pure enough, you can force your mutating body to hold its shape. But the grim mathematics of the 41st millennium are against you. The energy of the warp is infinite, but the material form, even the transhuman physiology of an Astartes, is finite. There's a hard limit to how much reality-bending energy a physical vessel can contain before the laws of physics simply give up. Think of your body as a glass vessel. The power of chaos is a torrent of water being poured into it. At first, it fills you, empowers you, makes you heavy with purpose. But the gods are pouring from an infinite ocean. Eventually, the glass does not just overflow, it shatters. But because of the warp's influence, the vessel does not simply break apart and die. The water holds the shards together in a shifting, formless blob. The tragedy is that the path to glory is a blind path. There is no progress bar. There is no warning sign that says, one more slaughter away from demonhood, or one more slaughter away from spawndom. It is completely arbitrary. A whimsical god might decide that your face looks too boring and replace it with a tentacle. Or they might decide that you need iron skin, but forget to leave openings for your joints to move. It is a cosmic game of Russian roulette, where the gun has 1,000 chambers. Every time you pull the trigger, you get a new power, but eventually, inevitably, the bullet is a biological collapse. And the worst part? The gods find this hilarious. To Tzeentch, a spawn is a masterpiece of change. To Nurgle, it is a garden of new life. Your eternal suffering is not a failure to them. It is just a different kind of art.
The descent into spawndom is rarely quiet. It does not happen in your sleep. It happens in the heat of battle or at the crescendo of a dark ritual, when the veil between realities is thinnest. It begins with a sensation that survivors, if there were any sane ones, might describe as fullness, a pressure building not just behind the eyes, but inside the marrow of the bones. It is the feeling of a balloon being inflated past its capacity, but the balloon is your soul, and the air is the screaming madness of the warp. Then comes the snap. It is the moment the biological integrity of the champion fails. The Geller field of your own genetics collapses. What follows is not merely rapid growth, it is a biological riot. The body stops obeying the laws of anatomy and begins to obey the laws of dreams and nightmares. Imagine the sound of wet tearing. That is the sound of your muscles detaching from your anchor points because they have grown too large too fast. Bones do not just break, they liquefy and re-knit in seconds. Femurs lengthen into extra joints. Ribs burst outward like the blooming petals of a grotesque flower to form a cage for organs that didn't exist a moment ago. The spine twists, elongates, and sometimes splits, tearing the torso apart to accommodate a second, rudimentary nervous system. For a space marine, this horror is compounded by their greatest defense, their power armor. The ceramite plate is designed to protect the wearer from the outside world,
but it was never designed to contain an explosion from within. As the flesh expands, it meets the unyielding resistance of the armor, but the warp-infused meat is stronger than steel. It crushes itself against the inside of the greaves and pauldrons until the pressure is so great that the armor begins to crack. But often it doesn't just crack. The warp fuses the organic with the inorganic. The ceramite is absorbed. The jagged shards of broken armor plates are swallowed by the roiling fat and muscle, becoming submerged like rocks in a rising tide of dough. They resurface later as bony protrusions, metal fused with bone, exhaust vents becoming functional breathing orifices. The warrior is no longer wearing the armor. The armor has become a calcified scab upon their new shifting hide. The pain of this transformation is absolute. It is the pain of being born and dying simultaneously, 1,000 times a second. The nerves are firing not with pain signals, but with raw sensory overload. The eyes, if they haven't popped from their sockets or multiplied across the chest, see colors that don't exist. The ears hear the laughter of the gods. And the most terrifying part of this moment is the loss of control. A champion of chaos is defined by their will, their ability to impose their desires upon the galaxy. But in the moment of overload, your will means nothing. You might try to lift your arm to strike a foe, but your arm has become a pseudopod of lashing gristle that strikes your own face. You might try to scream a prayer to your god, but your vocal cords have dissolved into a gurgling sack of bile, or your mouth has sealed shut while a new one tears open on your stomach. You are a passenger in a vehicle that is crashing, and the steering wheel has just turned into a tentacle. The verticality of the human form is lost. You collapse under your own shifting weight, no longer a bipedal conqueror, but a slithering, heaving mound. The transformation creates a creature that has no up or down, no front or back. You are a chaotic mass of potentiality that has lost all purpose. The moment may last only seconds in real time, but for the victim, trapped in the chronal distortion of the warp, the agony of reshaping stretches into an eternity. And when the shifting finally slows, what is left is not a man, nor an Astarte, nor a demon. It is a thing. A chaos spawn.
To categorize a chaos spawn is a fool's errand. The Adeptus Mechanicus, in their obsessive desire to label the galaxy, often fails when confronted with these abominations because a spawn refuses to stay static. It is not a species, it is a biological event in constant flux. However, by studying the brave or foolish reports of inquisitorial agents, we can identify the recurring themes of this physiological blasphemy. The most immediate horror of a spawn is the lack of symmetry. Evolution favors symmetry for balance and efficiency. Chaos despises it. A spawn might have a massive, hulking arm of muscle on its left side, dragging on the ground like a dead weight, while its right side is a cluster of atrophied insectoid limbs that twitch uselessly. This imbalance forces the creature into a movement pattern that is sickening to watch. A lurching, rolling, dragging gait that looks painful because it is painful. The skeletal structure is often fluid, with bones dissolving and reforming mid-step, meaning the creature essentially breaks its own legs to walk and knits them back together to stand. Then there is the issue of sensory organs. On a human face, the eyes, nose, and mouth are arranged to facilitate communication and perception. On a spawn, they are scattered like seeds thrown in a storm. Eyes, often far too many of them, erupt across the creature's back, its flanks, or even the palms of its misshapen hands. Some blink vertically, others are compound eyes like a fly's. Some are merely weeping sores that react to light. Imagine the vertigo of seeing the world from 30 different angles simultaneously, with no central brain capable of processing the fragmented feed.
Mouths are equally displaced. A spawn does not necessarily feed through a head. It may have a lamprey-like maw opening on its torso, lined with rows of spinning teeth. It might have toothless suckering orifices on its tentacles. In many cases, the creature's original human face remains, stretched taut somewhere on the biomass, screaming silently, while the actual eating is done by a feral jaw that has burst from the stomach. This creates a haunting duality. The vestige of the man is still visible, trapped in the architecture of the beast, a passenger on a ship made of his own mutated flesh. The texture of the spawn is a revolt against nature. It is rarely just skin. It is a patchwork of scales, fur, slime, exposed muscle, and hardened chitin. Where the armor has fused, you might see a pauldron serving as a kneecap, or a bolter weapon absorbed into the forearm, the ammunition feeding directly from the creature's own bloodstream, firing bone shards instead of explosive rounds. The distinction between weapon, armor, and biology has vanished. But the true horror lies in the instability. If you cut a tyrannid, it bleeds ichor and dies. If you cut a spawn, the wound might grow teeth and bite you. The flesh of a spawn is supercharged with warp energy, possessing a regenerative factor that is aggressive and cancerous. Lop off a tentacle, and two might burst forth in seconds, wet and steaming. This is not survival, it is uncontrolled creation. The creature is effectively burning through its own metabolic fuel at a rate that should starve it in minutes, sustained only by the dark energies of the Empyrean. This rapid regeneration means the creature is in a perpetual torment. Its nerves are constantly being severed and reconnected by the shifting flesh. It is an anatomy of wet, grinding noises, the sound of bones grinding against new bones, of skin stretching until it tears, only to heal and tear again. To stand near a spawn is to smell the ozone of the warp, mixed with the copper tang of blood and the sickly sweet scent of rotting fruit. It is the smell of biology gone wrong. And yet, despite this chaotic physiology, the spawn is undeniably lethal. It is a mass of whipping, crushing, biting violence. It does not fight with technique, it fights with the weight of its own misery. It throws itself at the enemy, seeking to smother, to crush, to consume. It is a weapon of pure attrition. For how do you kill something that has no vital organs, no central heart, and whose form changes from moment to moment? You don't aim for the head, for it may have none. You simply burn it until there is nothing left to mutate. To understand the true horror of the Chaos Spawn, we must look away from the writhing flesh and gaze into the soul. The most comforting lie you could tell yourself is that the person who once existed is gone, that the mind was obliterated the moment the transformation began, leaving only a mindless beast behind. If that were true, this would merely be a story of death. But the Warhammer 40,000 universe rarely grants such mercies. The horror is not that the man is dead. The horror is that he is still in there. Consider for a moment the existence of a Space Marine dreadnought. When a loyalist hero is shattered in battle, his broken body is interred within a cybernetic sarcophagus. It is a cold, sterile existence, disconnected from the touch of the wind or the warmth of the sun. But it is an existence of honor. The dreadnought is a temple of steel, keeping the warrior alive to serve. He is asleep for decades, awakened only to war, but he remains a brother, revered by his kin. He is a pilot in a machine of war. Now, contrast this with the Chaos Spawn. The spawn is also a prison, but it is not made of ceramite and purity seals. It is a prison made of your own treacherous meat. Like the dreadnought pilot, the consciousness of the Chaos Champion often survives the transformation. But where the dreadnought is disconnected from sensation, the spawn is drowning in it. Imagine being trapped inside a cockpit where every warning light is screaming, the controls have been ripped out, and the windows are showing you conflicting realities. You try to move your arm, But you have 6 arms now, and none of them obey your command. You try to speak, to beg for help, to utter a final prayer, but your mouth has become a dripping beak that can only produce a wet, guttural roar. You are screaming until your soul feels like it will tear apart, but to the outside world, you are merely a beast hissing in anticipation of the kill. This is the ultimate form of locked-in syndrome. You are a passenger in a vehicle that hates you. You are forced to watch as your body, the vessel you spent a lifetime honing for war, betrays you in the most grotesque way possible. You might see your former battle brothers, the men you fought alongside for centuries. You try to signal them, to show them you are still there, but they do not see a brother. They see a resource. They see a meat shield. Or worse, they see a joke. The psychological torture is compounded by the warp's influence. A spawn exists in a liminal state between the materium and the immaterium. This means the victim is not just seeing the physical battlefield. Their perception is overlaid with the madness of the warp. They see demons where there are men. They see fire where there is ice. The sensory input is a kaleidoscopic nightmare that never ends. There is no sleep for a spawn. There is no sus-an membrane coma to wait out the centuries. There is only the eternal present of pain and confusion. And perhaps the cruelest twist is that the Chaos Gods ensure you remain aware. They want you to appreciate their gift. Nurgle wants you to feel the warmth of the rot. Slaanesh wants you to feel the exquisite agony of the nerve endings. Tzeentch wants you to comprehend the complexity of your change. Khorne wants you to feel the rage of your impotence. Your consciousness is pinned to this mutating mass like a butterfly to a corkboard, kept alive solely to witness your own degradation. While the dreadnought is a hero's grave, the chaos spawn is a traitor's hell. One preserves the man, the other mocks him. It is a solitude so profound that it crushes the spirit long before the body finally mercifully dissolves. You are alone in a crowd of your own flesh.
While every chaos spawn is a unique disaster of biology, the influence of the specific patron god often leaves a distinct signature on the mutation. The warp is not a monochrome sea. It is a spectrum of specific madness. When a champion falls, the flavor of their damnation reflects the deity they failed to serve. The result is a taxonomy of horror, where each variation offers a different kind of suffering for the victim and a different kind of threat to their enemies. First, consider the spawn of Khorne, often referred to as blood beasts. The blood god deals in rage and violence, and his spawn reflect this brutally literal philosophy. These creatures are mountains of vascular red muscle. They rarely have the tentacles or sorcerous appendages of their cousins. Instead, they are defined by bone and claw. Their mutation is one of kinetic excess. Their muscles grow so dense that they tear their own skin, leaving them perpetually flayed. Their bones erupt through the flesh to form jagged natural armor and serrated blades. A Khornite spawn is a creature of pure, mindless aggression. Its head, if it retains one, is often shaped like a hound's or a brass-clad skull, filled with rows of iron teeth designed to chew through tank armor. They do not cast spells, they simply charge. The horror here is the reduction of a warrior to a biological battering ram. The tactical mind of the Space Marine is gone, replaced by a singular neural command: kill. They are often leashed with brass chains, straining like rabid dogs, vibrating with an energy that demands bloodletting to sustain itself. Then there are the spawn of Nurgle, the foul spawn. If Khorne's creations are exploding with energy, Nurgles are collapsing under the weight of decay. These are bloated, necrotic hills of sludge. Their flesh is not just mutating, it is rotting and regenerating simultaneously.
They are filled with corpse gas, making them buoyant and surprisingly fast despite their bulk. Their bodies are riddled with weeping sores, open cavities, and sphincter-like mouths that spew acid and plagues. The horror of the Nurgle spawn is that it becomes a host. It is not just a monster, it is an ecosystem. Nurglings may burrow into its flesh, living inside the open wounds. Flies lay eggs in its eyes. The victim inside is buried under layers of rancid fat and disease, feeling every squirming parasite that calls their body home. They are incredibly resilient, able to absorb firepower that would vaporize a tank, simply because their nervous system is deadened by rot, yet the consciousness remains to witness the filth. In stark contrast are the spawn of Tzeentch, the most unstable of all. Tzeentch is the changer of ways, and his spawn are in a state of hyperflux. They do not hold a shape for more than a few minutes. One moment they are a mass of iridescent feathers and avian beaks. The next they are a cloud of crystalline eyes and blue fire. Their flesh is often translucent, showing organs that glow with witch light. To be a Tzeentchian spawn is to be dissolved into raw magic. The victim's mind is shattered by the constant rewriting of reality. They might levitate, phase through walls, or accidentally turn themselves inside out. They are beautiful in a headache-inducing way, a kaleidoscope of impossible geometry. They screech in languages that drive mortals mad, vomiting blasts of warp fire that mutate whatever they touch. This is the horror of total loss of definition. You are everything and nothing at once. Finally, we have the spawn of Slaanesh, the fiends of excess. The Dark Prince grants gifts of sensation, and his spawn are a perversion of beauty. They are often lithe, serpentine, and disturbing in their grace. Their skin might be pale marble or pastel-hued, but their limbs end in crab-like pincers or lashing whips of sinew. They reek of a musk that is simultaneously intoxicating and nauseating, a pheromone trap to lure prey close. The horror of the Slaanesh spawn is the mockery of perfection. You might see a face of breathtaking beauty, but it is placed on a torso of writhing snakes. They move with a dancer's elegance, but kill with a sadist's cruelty. The victim inside is subjected to sensory overload. Every touch, every sound, every pain is magnified 1,000-fold. They are slaves to sensation, driven to touch, taste, and experience everything on the battlefield, tearing enemies apart, not just to kill, but to feel the texture of their insides. If the physical pain and psychological torture were not enough, there remains one final layer of horror for the Chaos Spawn: the complete stripping of dignity. Remember, the being trapped inside this mound of flesh was once a champion. They were likely a space marine captain, a sorcerer lord, or a planetary governor. They commanded armies. They held the power of life and death over millions. They believed themselves to be the protagonists of the galaxy. Now they are livestock. In the eyes of the Chaos Warbands, a spawn is no longer a he or a she. It is an it. It is an asset to be managed, stored, and expended. When not in battle, these former lords are not treated with pity or reverence. They are often kept in the bowels of chaos cruisers, locked in reinforced cages caked with filth, or chained to the walls of engine rooms where the radiation is highest. They are fed scraps, corpses, or sometimes the failed aspirants of the warband. They are herded into battle not by honor guards, but by beastmasters, often low-ranking cultists or mutants who use electrified prods and barbed whips to drive the spawn forward. Imagine the humiliation. You once conquered star systems, and now you are being whipped by a wretched mutant who would have cowered in your shadow a week ago. But you cannot command him to stop. You cannot strike him down with precision. You can only roar in impotent fury and lash out blindly, which is exactly what he wants. We are delving deep into the darkest corners of the 41st millennium today. If you want to ensure you don't miss our future decodings of the galaxy's most horrifying fates, from the arco-flagellants to the secrets of the dark cells, make sure you are subscribed and have the notification bell active. Do not let the algorithm hide the truth from you. On the battlefield, the spawn is used with a callous pragmatism that chills the blood. They are fire-and-forget weapons. Commanders will release them in the vanguard, not because they are elite shock troops, but because they are excellent bullet sponges. Their regenerating flesh makes them perfect for absorbing enemy fire, clearing minefields with their bodies, or bogging down enemy lines in a messy melee while the real warriors advance safely behind them. There is no glory in their kills. If a spawn tears apart an enemy hero, no sagas are sung. It is treated like a feral dog catching a rat. And if the spawn falls, it is left to rot. There is no recovery of gene seed, no funeral rites. A spawn is disposable. In fact, many chaos sorcerers view spawndom as a convenient recycling method. If a rival is becoming too troublesome but is too powerful to kill openly, a subtle ritual to destabilize their genetic structure can turn a political threat into a useful siege engine. Perhaps the most grotesque indignity is the use of spawn as beasts of burden. In some legions, particularly the Iron Warriors or Word-bearers, massive spawn are used to haul heavy artillery or push siege towers. But the pinnacle of disrespect is seen when a Chaos Lord uses a spawn as his mount. There are recorded instances of lords riding into battle atop a hulking, whimpering mass of flesh that was once their own lieutenant. To be ridden by your rival, to feel his armored boots digging into your own mutated spine, to be steered by a chain hooked through your own eye socket. This is the ultimate submission. It is a message sent by the rider to everyone watching. Look at what happens to those who fail. Look at what happens to those who are weak. The spawn becomes a living banner of failure, paraded through the war zone until its usefulness expires. And when that usefulness finally ends, when the regeneration fails, or the body is finally vaporized by heavy anti-tank weaponry, the only reaction from their former brothers is laughter. In the grim darkness of the far future, there is no pity for the fallen, only contempt for the weak. And the spawn is the ultimate symbol of weakness. The most terrifying realization about becoming a chaos spawn is not the pain, nor the humiliation, nor even the loss of humanity. It is the realization that this was not personal. We often attribute human emotions to the chaos gods. We imagine them as cruel, sadistic overlords who delight in tricking mortals. And while there is truth to that, it implies that they care. It implies that your suffering matters to them. But the truth is far colder. To the ruinous powers, you are not a person. You are a conduit. You are a pipe through which the energy of the warp flows. If you burst, if you shatter under the pressure, it is of no more consequence to them than a broken fuse is to an electrician. They simply replace you. The chaos spawn is not a punishment for failure. It is simply the natural result of pouring an ocean into a cup. The gods did not curse you. They simply gave you everything you asked for, all at once, without checking if you could survive it. Nurgle loves you so much he wants you to have every disease. Tzeentch wants you to experience every form. Slaanesh wants you to feel everything. It is an excess of love that destroys the object of affection. And once you are broken, the gods move on. The eye of terror blinks and looks elsewhere. The whispers in your mind stop. The promises of glory fade. You are left alone in the wreckage of your own biology. The silence that follows the madness is the heaviest burden of all. You screamed into the void, and the void answered, broke you, and then got bored. So when you look at the towering armor of a Chaos Lord, do not envy his power. Look closer at the shadows behind him. Look at the writhing, whimpering mounds of flesh that follow in his wake. They were once just like him. They had the same ambition, the same pride, the same certainty that they were the chosen ones. The line between a demigod and a monster is not drawn by skill or merit. It is drawn by blind, uncaring chance. And in the grim darkness of the far future, that line is razor thin. You do not just risk your life when you walk the path to glory. You risk becoming a creature that cannot die, but can no longer truly live. A scream trapped in flesh, echoing forever in the silence of the gods. This is the fate worse than death.